Hi, I'm Andrew Armstrong and welcome to the back office. Today's video is about the contents of this box, which was sent to me by the wonderful Mike Pitt, and it's a bit of an unboxing. So I've resisted for several weeks opening this, even up to this morning where we've had a power cut for most of the day, because it's so nicely packed and it's nicely presented. And I can see there was a letter in there. I wanted to share the experience with you boys and girls at home. So he says, "Hi Andrew, please find enclosed a selection of ZX Spectrum tapes and the main event, a Rondo VIDI ZX interface with operating software on cassette." If you recall in a previous video, I did the VIDI ST, and it's blown me away. Mike contacted me and it blew me away that there could even exist one on a Spectrum, to be honest. He says, "In the absence of the user guide, I've printed a review of the device from the 1989 Sinclair user magazine posted on Twitter by ZX Vintage," which is also worth a follow. So I will be having a look at ZX Vintage, Mike. Thank you very much. "I've removed the screen grabs from the review as not to spoil your first time experience using the interface. Hope you're able to put the interface to good use. All the best, Mike." And there he has included that. Look, it's so exciting. I won't read this out, don't worry. It's a bit small. I'm going to put this to the side though, because it is wonderfully bubble wrapped. I don't know what we call these. Packing peanuts. And Mike did say he had some bits lying around, so I think I'm going to have to just transfer these out as I go along. So the first thing I can see though, of course, is Elite. Now, I wasn't even sure they had Elite on ZX Spectrum, to be honest. Back in there, I would have had a BBC Macro, but it obviously was ported to other platforms. And look, it's for the 128K Spectrum 985, and it's a heavy box, by the way. This is like the big box. Let's see what you get. You get the Space Traders training manual. Oh my word, and a keyboard overlay. Wow, this is some nice pack in stuff here, isn't it? Look at your poster containing all of the pictures of the ships. The Dark Wheel. There are lots of books used to have this little novella, didn't they? Say lots of books, lots of games. Where is my brain? That's what you want. Look, that's the tape by Firebird. Oh, such nostalgia. But I wonder what that was for. If you didn't have the tape, was that for the discs? You remember, like, there was a Sinclair system that did have discs. Let's put that aside. Brilliant. That's going to be certainly one of the things I'm going to be playing later, Mike. Is that the VIDI ZX? Let's have a look. That could be it. We might have found it already. Certainly feels like it could be. It's a hardy thing. Dum dum dum. Yes, it is. Rondo Productions, made in Scotland. I'm going to put this aside though. I think we're going to try to take the lid off that. Yes, we're going to try to take the lid off that. We'll do a teardown. I'm going to rattle through though. Let's rattle through this box real quick. So we've got the micro guide for the ZX Spectrum. I tell you what, these are really good classic things. I'm going to be using the Spectrum more now. We've got some materials on it. I have to admit, when I grew up, I didn't have a Spectrum, and I had the Beeb and the Beeb micro guide, user guide, and all of that. And they're quite, I don't know how you call them, iconic. They're almost iconic when you see them because they're very distinct. Because you'd have seen them at schools. They did the advanced version. Well, these are rather well wrapped, my word. So the world of the Spectrum side really has kind of eluded me, but I'm guessing you guys would have had your own equivalent to this. Manic Miner. Oh, okay. Let's have a look at this selection at the moment. Super Talk. Can that make it talk? I remember, like, is it Mr. Punch or Punchy that used to have a sort of pterodactyl. Terror spelt with the terror. 4-dimensional graphics, reach around. The Spectrum reach around. Manic Miner, always a classic. And what's this? View 3D. It's like 3D rendering. It's bonkers what they were doing with those systems. I have to admit, we like to have a little joke sometimes on the Discord, and we're like, Spectrum, not a real computer. And honestly, I promise you guys at home, it's not really a believed thing. There are way worse computers than the Spectrum. VIDI ZX. Now that is its actual software on its actual tape. Let's try not to ruin that. Don't put it near the magnets. I'm surprised, by the way, we didn't lose more data in our youth, because I really didn't take any care when I was storing cassette tapes. And I'm just going to check this. This is empty, so then I can move this out of the way. Yeah, let's get this out of the way so we can have a proper look. So, Mike, did you keep anything back, Mike? Is this have you lost now all of your Spectrum collection to me? Or did you keep something? I feel like I'm going to have to be like a curator now of the Spectrum Museum. Let's have a look. Oh, ooh, what's this one? Cholo, or Cholo. It's got two L's here, CHOLLO, but there's only one L there. So whoever was selling this at Watchdog for $3.99 spelt it wrong on the label. But look, it's another 3D type game. Look at those graphics. And for once, it's real graphics. It's not like these are the 16-bit version graphics like they used to do. Main robot controls, flying eye controls, aeroplane controls, camera controls, all of the controls. What else do we get in there? Now I'm wondering, yeah, oh, look at that. Cholo! It's like a proper little map there, known robots. Now this seems to me like something to do with a copy protection, so we'll see if that's the case. And there you go. Again, Firebird. Now, did Firebird distribute Carrier Command? Because that is one of my faves, and I kind of feel there probably is a Spectrum version of Carrier Command. If the Spectrum is capable of doing Elite and all these other things, then Carrier Command is by no means outside of its capability. I remember 1988, by the way. New Year's 1988 is just a number. It just stuck in my head for some reason when I was growing up. 1988, and it's fantastic then to have something like this that is from that period. And it seems so long ago, doesn't it? But it's really still quite fresh in your minds. I'm going to try to tell that to my kids. You know, when they say, when you were young, they'll be like, you know what, guys? It really wasn't that much different, was it? Shops were actually still quite glossy and nice looking. Chocolate bars were pretty much the same thing. We had computers. We had all this stuff. I mean, we like to think that because, you know, time's gone by and... because time's gone by and we're now so sophisticated, but really it's the same, isn't it? It's just more of the same. I mean, we had McDonald's growing up, we had some form of the internet, but we had our own equivalents, video arcades. I mean, it's, you know, humanity's not really gone too far ahead. Look at this. This is the olden days where you used to have proper things printed on paper. So I think we should have a go one day at Daley Thompson's Olympic Challenge, and I'm hoping there's going to be some waggle stick action in it. Right. Now, let's have a look at the main event. So this is the Vidi ZX and this is the Vidi ST. So you can see there is a difference in their size. But they kind of have similar things in that. That's probably the same video in, and there's an adjustment pot in here, an adjustment pot out there. But we'd actually probably have to consult some instructions to really get to understand what it's doing. Now let's undo some screws. There's a screw missing. I wonder, Mike, were you already in here? Was Mike having a cheeky little look? See? Pop out some EEPROM chips. And that's a really good point, actually. It might be possible if this thing... In fact, I'm almost certain that if we can get hold of any special chips that are in here, we can probably recreate this. Oh my word, look at that. That type of PCB is so iconic and definitely period. There's no solder mask on there. Don't think there's not even a silk screen. And I believe some of these chips are familiar. I think that's probably an EEPROM, right? The HY6264. But it almost looks simple enough that if you were going to sit down here and study this, you'd be able to learn it all up and figure it out. But I'm going to zoom in for you boys and girls at home, and I'm going to try to read out some of these main chips in case you've got an inkling of how it's all working. This one says 8549. This is a TC-HC393P, a TC74H74P. I think these are just logic chips, aren't they? A Hyundai HY6264LP. My guess is EEPROM, but you can tell me if I'm wrong. A Toshiba TC74HC00P. And again, TC74HC4040P, TCHC374P, TC74HC139P, M74HC244B1, and a Toshiba 74HC02AP. Not too many chips though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A 10 chip device. And there is a date code on here. 5188 or 51. Week 51, 1988, towards the end of the year. Who knows? Now, the next thing, of course, is to put it in the Spectrum and see if we can actually fire up this tape. I just remembered my Spectrum Plus 2 isn't outputting RGB correctly, so before we can go any further, I need to make a quick mod to it. Otherwise, the pictures we'll get will be all ghosty. And while I'm normally okay to tolerate that for most things, I'm not going to be able to tolerate that for this epic endeavour of getting video captured onto this thing. Fortunately, it's not a particularly difficult mod on this particular edition, which is the Plus 2. Now, depending on your board, of course, or rather your Spectrum, you will have to do slightly different things. But this one we can get away with just piggybacking one of the resistors here, and that will give us a proper SCART voltage. I went through my box of tricks, found a 1K resistor. So the point is, you really want to replace this R44 with a 640 ohm, but if you don't have a 640 ohm, basically you can run 1K in parallel with it, and that will bring it down. So work out the best way to bend the legs. I'm just going to do a 90 degree on this one, and then I'm going to solder it in and then figure out the rest of the cutting afterwards. So soldering iron ready, going to turn that on. Just going to place that there. I'm placing it there while I'm waiting for the solder iron to heat up, basically, and get my solder ready. And I'll just clean the old tip because it's looking grim. I'm just going to get in there, touch that far end. You can see it's got a nice bit of solder on it. And if you don't have tweezers, it's probably a good time to get them, even though mine seem to be letting me down a little bit with my butterfingers today. I'm just going to go in. Going to do it by hand. There you go. So it's more or less now where I want it. And then I'm going to finesse it with tweezers. I know it was a bit arse about, but that sometimes is needed. So you can see now it's linked there. See if we can zoom in a bit more. Yes, we can. Can we fix it? Aye, aye, Captain. I think we're mixing up some children's IP there. So now I've got that bent over that way. And with that, the ghosting should be removed. You can make it as pretty as you like, but frankly, I think that's as pretty as you need to make it. Because when you zoom out, bang, that's what it looks like. No one's gonna know. Nobody's gonna know, but they're gonna know. Nobody. So you can see, in order of maximum legitimateness, I'm going to be recording it using this CRT TV connected to the Spectrum, purely because it was already set up for the light pen video we did a little while back. We're going to put in the VIDI ZX tape and load up the software. Let's go. I'm guessing it's done. The tape's still running, but the screen doesn't have those loading sounds. So I'm going to hit stop. Oh, it just started to play something. Nope. Seems like that is the current user interface is loaded. So I'm going to hit return. So it's going through some modes here. So it says run. Oh! And that's the DVD menu right there. So I'm going to push play on that DVD, which has my back office custom DVD that we made when we were testing the Atari ST version of this, and you can see that was the back office logo, and that's followed by the test card. It's a rainbow test card, and it's giving a reasonable amount of gradient there, and that would you'd be ideally pure black, and that'd be pure light. That is a I think it's a grayscale test card, some sort of weird test card going on there. Obviously it doesn't like that, and that's, I'm going to pause it right there. there you go, and that's me, like you'd see in any other episode of the back office. So the first thing I'm noticing, of course, is that the image isn't centered, but wow, that's looking pretty good. In fact, I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I think you deserve a closer look. So although the DVD's paused, you can see the image isn't static, and that's because it's resampling, and the box is just down here. There's a little knob on the side. I'm going to twiddle that knob. And that looks like a contrast or gain control for the contrast. You can see there, you could get that looking quite good. Now let's hit return again. We've got to figure out what this user interface is. So, space seems to go through a bunch of stuff. So let's go to menu, grab. Oops, it's very sensitive. Color, fast grab, sequence, media, backup. What's color do? Paper, ink. Oh, the paper or the ink or the border. Okay, so let's change the color of the paper. I want paper color 5, please. Cyan. How about the ink? I'm guessing the ink is the, what we'd say is the black, normally. I'm going to go for color 1. Don't think it made much difference there. Maybe that's what it already was. Let's try one more. Uh-oh. I'm coming up with all sorts of crazy combinations. I would just like one that works. One last try, shall we? Let's leave it at that. I think that's fine. So that's the paper ink. Brightness. So let's see what the brightness on or off. Let's turn it off. Oh, there you go. Bit of extra brightness there if you want it. So it seems to be that the value that shows you on the screen in this user interface isn't necessarily the currently selected one, so that could be a little bit annoying, so be careful on that. Like the flash there, you can see it was default to on, and see it stays on again, so I've got to switch it to off. Yeah, not too great a UI. I do like the idea of being able to change the border colour though, that's much better. Now if you've got a ZX Spectrum book, it probably tells you what all these are. So you've got fast grab, which I think is what we've done. So when we hit run, that's basically was the fast grab. You can see when I hit space, it does something there. So I wonder if you're getting a higher frame rate in this mode. In fact, let's push play. And you can see what the frame rate looks like. It looks like pretty much the same frame rate in both. Although there's obviously going to be less processing. I'm going to hit the spacebar again. I'm going to adjust that contrast control, see what we can get. Interesting. Not entirely sure what it's doing. I think it's adding an additional dithering algorithm. Now what other modes do we have? So if we go back to the menu, so we had fast grab, sequence, media, backup, color. So I think sequence is probably where you're going to actually capture separate frames. So that is going to be interestingly enough. I'm not quite sure how that works. We're going to hit play. I don't know, maybe we're going to hit space. Well, we know space does that, so that's probably not it. Has it actually recorded a sequence? Oh, it's doing something. It's thinking about it. Animate. Loop. Okay. On. Run. Oh yes, it is playing an animation there. And I'm guessing if I push play on the DVD player, yep, the DVD player is running, but this is an existing frame. So the frame buffer in the Rondo is able to capture quite a few frames there. So what else can we do? Direct, forward, backwards. Well, we're not really going to be able to tell if it's going forward or backwards, such a short sequence there. Well, what else? Animate, speed, number of frames. Oh, number of frames. Okay, let's have a look at that. So we have a Spectrum Plus 2, which is 128K. I reckon, well, I don't know. Should we go for 24 frames? Oops. Oh, that's not even an option. The maximum number of frames is 6, unfortunately. So we're maxing it out. I'm going to push play again. Let's see if we can see any fresh input. Oh, it's thinking about it. Yeah, probably a good idea to get the manual for the Rondo, but as you can see, pretty much, very much like the ST, it's going to allow you to do that. We saw the options in there for saving and loading from tape, but the question I have for you boys and girls at home is, if you take these screen dumps effectively, what could you do with them? I mean, apart from, oh, it's playing from the DVD actually, look. Apart from loading them as maybe a static image, on the loading screen. I'm not really sure what you'd expect to be able to do on the ZX Spectrum, certainly not full motion video, although I have to admit this is an amazing feat of engineering to be able to see something like that just coming through. It does actually blow my mind. Clearly it is mono, as opposed to the one we saw for the ST, and probably the Amiga would be the same. But really, I think that's way more than I would expect this to be able to do. So in summary, I'd say this is a really interesting piece of kit. The Rondo Productions, made in Scotland from Girders, Vidi ZX. Blown me away, absolutely. Thank you so much for sending this in. This is something that I'm definitely going to play a lot more with offline, because it's going to take me a good old while to learn all of its functions. And it's not too dissimilar than these other interfaces here, where they have their own software, and their software works in their own unique ways. So you've really got to have a fiddle with it. And if you're lucky enough, you might be able to find manuals. So hopefully that's been of some use to you. I hope you've found this interesting. If so, please consider giving me a shout on Discord, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. Comments down below. As ever, thank you for watching.